All right, and good evening, Select Board and the public. I'd like to call to order the Guilford Select Board meeting of Monday, August 9th, 2021. This meeting is a hybrid meeting. That means that some of us are here present in the town office and others of the Select Board are joining us remotely. And if anyone wishes to join us remotely, let me give you the web address where you can come in. It's https://us06web.zoom.us/94125752190190 PWD equals BH capital N, capital O, capital W, small k 9, KA 1K 4, capital M, capital E, capital F, capital V, small c, capital H, capital R, small o, capital T, capital F, capital J, capital Q, capital M, capital G, 11DZ09. The meeting ID is 941-2575-2190, and let me remind you that this appears on the town website where you can just click on it and I don't even have to say anything. Thank you. I recognize the public. I think John McLean is there and
Leslie Malone.
And Leslie, hi Leslie and John. And then the rules of procedure. The rules of procedure are here in the office and on the town website, and they govern how we communicate with each other, the public and the select board. We ask to be called upon by raising our hand, and we emphasize civility. Are there any changes to the agenda order?
I do not have any.
All right, and the minutes. I assume that we've read the minutes.
Yes.
And do I have a motion to accept them? Miranda?
I should like to move so.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I would second.
Michael, thank you very much. Is there any discussion of the minutes? Okay, then I shall take the roll. Zom?
Aye.
Rusty?
Aye.
Miranda?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Richard? Aye. The minutes are approved. And Mr. Zambrowski, on to the highway report.
Good afternoon,
Good
people.
afternoon.
It's all nice to see everybody meeting back.
In the flesh.
Yeah. No. What do you guys like to know?
What do you?
Well, I just, we've been grading roads, slow mowing roadsides. A couple weeks ago, there's on Hale Road, there's an old laid up wall before you get to the Halifax line. And between the wetness, it was in between the storms, the wall finally collapsed out at the bottom. So we've been over there for the last 3 days cutting trees. Wednesday I got Zaluzny is gonna haul some great big stone. And I got a big machine coming in we're gonna armor the bank. And then after they get done, we're gonna widen the road out a little bit right there, put a couple culverts in, because it's in a real bad narrow spot. So it's something that's been slowly deteriorating over the years. So I'm hoping to bang it out, the armor in a day, so.
Great.
But
Anything else, Dan?
other than that, I mean, we finally got our new truck. It got lettered last week. It's at the shop. It's very pretty. If anybody wants to look
Okay,
at
when
it.
I come down,
Oh,
look at
sure.
it.
No, it's all.
I want to ride
It's
it.
all, you gotta go for it. It's all lettered and the
And it's
radio,
red?
yeah, and the radio's in it. Actually, we're gonna be hauling a little gravel tomorrow over on Bonneville Road to touch up a couple spots. So, but other than that, we're just doing our regular routine summer
Great.
maintenance, doing culverts, and I got a couple stone line ditch projects we're gonna be doing this fall. One of them is on Butternut Hill. We getting some aid to help put that in, so.
And I just signed the grant agreement today.
You did sign it today? Okay, yeah.
Right.
And we have until, as I understand, the state, it used to be in the Wyndham Regionals commissions, they had in charge of it, but now, if I'm not mistaken, the state's taken over.
Starting July 1st, the state took over the program.
Yeah, so we have, because originally it had to be done by October 31st. Now I got until June of next year, so which is good, gives us a little more time to do some other stuff.
Great. Michael, did you have a question?
Oh, I was just saying, the Hale Road, I mean, it seems like it's a little above and beyond normal day-to-day activities, right?
It's just something that, it just,
Are we gonna need to free up, is it gonna fit within the budget or?
yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'll take some money out of my, I got some money for retaining walls, I'll just use that money
Okay.
there and
Okay, it's in place.
rented equipment and, just, it's something that needs to be done,
For
otherwise it's,
sure, right?
and it'll be, I don't know what we're gonna run into, but it'll be a big improvement, so.
Nice.
Well, I mean, from what Dan was telling me at the end of last week, is this something he knew was needed being done, it's just a matter of when. So it doesn't explicitly have anything to do with the storm, it just
Right.
has to do because it was old.
It was in between the storms and the ground just, I got water running out of places that we really haven't seen much water run out of before.
Because there's been a lot of water coming.
It's wet, I mean, our water table is up there pretty well, so.
Mhm. Well,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Dan. All right, on to new business. The Historical Society roof is leaking, I understand. And Peter, can
unsurprising.
you
Yep.
tell us more about that?
So I received an email from the Historical Society just to notify the select board that apparently several slate tiles blew off in the storm at the end of July, as well as the metal roof cap. And so there has been some leaking in there. They're unsure as to the extent of the damage. And so they're inquiring of the select board what you would like done about it. I mean, technically it is a town building, so it is a responsibility of the select board. They are just tenants of the building. They are obviously concerned about the items they're in. And I told them I would.
So would the
speak with you, but
first step be to have somebody, a professional examine what the leakage is, a roofer?
I think we need to have a roofer come out. I think given the fact that we could potentially get rain at any time, we may need to consider just finding a roofer. And if it's under a certain amount, I mean, if it's under the $2,500, we don't need to go out to get somebody to come and fix it. We can just have the work done. If it's going to be more than that, the select board can make a decision whether you want to just hire someone and make an exception to the purchasing policy due to the urgent nature of the matter.
Do we need a motion to have a roofer come and look at it?
I think that would be good.
Okay.
That building is close to the public at the
It is
moment, right?
It is currently closed to the public because of COVID.
But what about the ceiling collapse? I'm just curious how the roof and the thing.
So
about the ceiling
apparently
collapse.
some of the sheetrock or plaster on the ceiling has fallen down.
Yeah.
But they don't know what kind of water damage has been. So we may need more than just a roofer, but I think we need to start with a roofer to prevent any further leaking, and then we can investigate the internal damage after that. But
Whose responsibility is it to repair the ceiling? I'm just curious. Like,
the entire building is responsibility of the select board.
okay.
So do I have a motion to hire a roofer to investigate what's going on at the Historical Society?
I'll make that.
All
motion.
right, do I have a second? Miranda seconds. Are there any discussion?
Do we want to get a price on this? I'm curious, like, why we haven't acted on the ceiling collapse.
Well, when we get the roofer, we'll get.
My understanding is it's been a concern, but it has not
Yeah.
actually started falling in until the water started coming in.
I mean, my understanding is a pretty sizable chunk dropped of plaster, and that the building's unusable at the moment.
I was not told. All I was
Yeah.
told is that several of the slate tiles blew off. The roof cap came off,
Yeah.
and that's all I was told.
Okay, well, maybe that's a future agenda item
Yeah.
to sort out the
Yeah.
interior.
Well,
problems.
so when we speak to the roofer, is there any further discussion? I will just say that once we have the roofer go in there, maybe the roofer can also, maybe we can find a roofer who can also give us an assessment of what's happening with the ceiling and just the water damage generally. Would that be good to do?
Yeah. I mean, if we can find somebody,
I think it might be two different.
it might be two different
specialists.
contractors. But we'll
I have
start
a
with.
question.
Yes, Rusty.
Does this come under any insurance that we have, or?
Good question.
I can contact the insurance company. I suspect not. I mean, it's gonna have to be a $2,000. I mean, it's a $2,000 deductible. So depending on, I mean, if it's just replacing 3 or 4 tiles, and the cap on the metal cap that goes over the slate, that's not likely gonna get to that amount.
But our first step should be to have a move.
We need to at least get an estimate, but
Yeah.
that's a good question, Rusty.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a very good question. Okay, are we ready to take a vote? Miranda?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Richard? Aye. Rusty?
Aye.
Zahn? All right, that motion carries. Peter, you can take care of that.
I will take care of that and report back to the
Okay, very
select
good.
board.
On to a dog complaint investigation.
Okay. I reached out to Roberta by email and phone.
The complainant.
The complainant, yes, I'm sorry. I reached out to the complainant and did not hear back. So what was in the complainant's report is what we have.
And I tried to reach out to the individual or the dog being complained about, or the individual being complained about, had no luck in reaching her. And Peter has sent a certified letter to her. And have you had any response?
No.
No. So, what is our next step then in that regard?
Well, and then the next step is, so part of the process is you're supposed to get both sides of the story. If no one provides that information, it's at the select board liberty to dismiss the complaint.
Oh, dismiss the complaint.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh,
I would consider dismissing the complaint. Anyone else want to weigh in on that? Rusty? You're on mute.
You're on mute, Rusty. And I did reach out to Richard Davis, our health officer. He contacted the complainant and said that the minor injury that was received during the dog fight had nothing to do with the dogs fighting. So he said there's nothing for him to file because it was not related.
Okay.
I say we dismiss it.
Yeah. And do I hear anyone else? I say we dismiss it.
The written
The
complaint
complaint.
doesn't, we need to.
Because the complainant has not responded.
Neither the complainant nor the accused have responded.
Yeah.
So that is, I mean,
Zahn, you're on mute.
Yes, I am. Sorry. I have a question, please. Is it the complainant's response? If the complainant submits a report or a request for us to consider, is it the complainant's responsibility then to respond to any question we have?
yes.
I mean, I understand it is. So that's why we can dismiss this. I mean, it seems
That's
to me
correct.
that if a person made a request, then we need to consider that.
Right, but we,
So then the select board did take next steps as prescribed, both in state statute and in our ordinance. And
Okay.
both select board members received no response from either party. So
then, yeah.
you could, the two options are for you to continue to investigate the matter or to dismiss the complaint.
I would like to make a motion that we dismiss the complaint.
Peter?
Yep.
I second it.
Morris is trying to get
It's
into the meeting.
seconded.
Oh, I
Is there any
see.
discussion? Is there any discussion? Rusty seconded.
I think, I feel as if it was a pretty serious complaint. But if everybody else feels as if we should dismiss it, then
Just one point of clarification. You said Roberta, but I thought.
I'm
the
not
organization
going
was
to,
Rebecca.
I'm sorry, it was a mistake for me to mention the person's name.
Oh,
To me, if it was that serious, they would have responded.
I would think so.
Yes, yeah, or they will, or they'll understand that they need to have responded, and they may submit another
Right.
request for.
Which is fine, and they can do that.
Okay,
Yeah,
then I'm ready to vote.
Okay, so I'll take the vote then. Zahn?
I
Rusty?
Aye.
Miranda?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Richard? Aye. So that dog complaint is dismissed. Now, do you have to correspond with the both parties to tell them that the complaint has been dismissed?
So I will send a certified letter to both parties notifying them of the decision
Great, thank you, Peter. All right, on to,
and the reasoning for the decision.
right,
yeah, I think that's important.
I put this ARPA funding planning and outreach on the agenda, and what I'd like us to do is just to have a discussion. I'm not expecting any decisions, but I would like to discuss how we are going to handle the funding once it comes in, and getting our community, our town, to know that the funding is here and that the funding is intended for town organizations. So one idea that I have that I'd like to share with you is that I think that we should create a form. I mean, we're way in advance because we haven't had the money either from the feds or from the state or the money that's coming to the county. But I'd like to create a form in which an organization could come to the town office, for instance, and pick up this form, and it would basically be the name of the organization, the project for which they would be seeking, the project that they have in mind, the impact that the pandemic has had on the project, because that's one of the criteria, and the amount requested, and what the budget is for what the project would be, and basically what the amount they're asking for. So, and Peter and I could work in creating that form, and I wanted to know what the select board thought of that, but as one step in the direction of allowing, facilitating people coming to the select board, because this is going to be the select board's decision.
I think it's a great idea.
I mean, and the funds can also be used for select board matters as well. It doesn't explicitly, that is an option.
Right.
For use, and maybe that's a good option for the first half of the funding, and then the second half of the funding could be a select board based project.
The other thing I want you to mention
Zon
is
is trying to get your attention.
who?
Zon.
Oh, Zon. Can I just finish what I'm going to say? The other thing I wanted to say was that part of this funding can go to relieve the tax impact on the town. And there's a calculator that Peter has been working with, so that if we meet the standard, am I saying this correctly? Yep. That the feds have set, the money, we could get the money, we would receive the money because of the tax impact on the town. That would be the criterion that we were working under, and then it would be our total responsibility to disperse the funds, because we would have already met the federal government's criteria.
Correct.
Right?
Yep, that's a good summary of it.
Okay, and so Peter have you come up with the?
So I started working on this calculator. The calculator was created by the National League of Cities and Towns, and so to not duplicate things, VLCT, the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, is promoting use of this calculator. It's very complex for calculating. So in short, what it's trying to prove is that if we have less than a 4.1% increase in tax revenues, then according to the feds, we had a loss in tax revenues during COVID. We know that we did not have a 4.1% increase because we've been trying to maintain level funding. Per that definition, level funding is 3% or less. So we know, based on our work and the work that the Finance Committee has done, that we've been certainly well below that. That being said, VLCT is currently working with NEMRIC, which is the company that has created the software that we use for all our accounting and other purposes, because something like 98% of towns in Vermont use this software. So in order to get the necessary data from the software, Katie Buckley is working with NEMRIC to figure out how best to do this. Once the two parties have agreed on this, VLCT will then share guidance with all member towns on how to correctly use the calculator to come to that figure. So I reached out to Katie last week, and they're currently in negotiations and discussion on this.
And we should point out that Katie Buckley is now the VLCT point person on all of the ARPA funding. So that's why Peter's been talking with her, and Peter and I had a meeting with her. We jumped right in. I think we were the first town that asked.
Yeah, we were her guinea pig.
Yeah, to talk about ARPA funding with her. So, and we have notes on that conversation. Zon, yes. Hi, Sheila.
Hi, Sheila. I like what I'm hearing Richard, your idea I think is good. I would recommend that since I guess I need to understand. You say we're far ahead. I'm wondering if maybe just as grants work in the world, it would be helpful, I think, if we had a space or a place on our website or some information that prior to applying, prior to a deadline for applying, people could read about this. And so other questions might come up. We might get more insight.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Zone.
We could tighten up and probably we'll learn more, I would imagine, as we go along, so that the worst thing you want to do is put out an application and the first person that applies gets their stuff in right away, and then things change and morph. It's a mess to try to straighten it all out.
Yeah.
So if we could really have pretty clear, here's the information period, here's the application period, and the response period comes pretty close after that.
Yeah, so that was another thing. I like that idea very much, to have a schedule of how this would unroll. And I like your idea of putting it on the website. And we have the FAQs from VLCT, which are very good about ARPA. I mean, they've done a fabulous job, in my opinion, of clarifying what the federal government's wants and requirements are for this funding. So that's very good. We should.
So, Zon, would you like to work with Richard and myself on
Happy
crafting
to
some
do that.
language for that? Okay.
Let me know.
So we'll work together on creating and anybody else who wants to, Miranda
Well,
does.
if we do more than 2 select board members, we have to remember it has to be a warned meeting.
No, so
No,
let's just do
that's
2.
okay.
Okay, so we'll just do the schedule and what we just rolled out, and language for the town website, and also how to get the ARPA FAQs onto the website, which wouldn't be hard.
So I'll incorporate all this discussion in the minutes, and then I'll reach out to Zon and Richard.
Okay, great. Miranda?
I think
And
that,
Sheila has her hand up.
Yeah.
yeah, I think we ought to fold into the information sharing some kind of grant seekers workshop,
Mm-hmm.
you know, where people could actually either come to a place or come to a Zoom and really have an in-person back and forth. And I have a quick question, which is, do the grant seekers have to be a nonprofit entity?
I believe so.
It depends on the impact of COVID, because businesses can also apply for it
That's true.
if they can demonstrate a negative impact due to COVID.
Interesting, okay.
So that's a very good idea. So did you capture the grant seekers? Because I wanted to also talk about how do we get this out to the public in a public meeting. That certainly would be one way of reaching the public.
The third thing that Katie shared with us as well is that should the select board feel it important for our town, is that individuals or families can also, if they can demonstrate a negative impact and demonstrate that they're in a low income bracket, that they can also technically be eligible for it if the select board felt that was an appropriate use. You don't have to, but that is an option under the federal guidelines.
They have to be, what is that thing called? Not that thing, but the low income.
I don't remember the specific,
There's a term, and
there's a specific term that they have to fit into.
They have to fit into the requirements of that. Sheila?
Thank you, Richard. Hi, everybody. So thanks, Miranda. So 3 things, if I can remember them. One is I would strongly suggest you put this, in any information you have about this on Front Porch Forum, so people can share it on Facebook, and, more than just the website, so people can link to the website. Secondly, if the select board could be a party to a grant application, I'd like to know, and I mean on behalf of the Finance Committee, would like to know what the select board would consider in terms of priorities and how that would fit into our probably no longer valid town plan. And I totally forgot what the third thing is, but I will ask I'll interrupt again if I remember.
Thanks, Sheila. There's
There's been so little information out there. Oh, if you have notes on the meeting with Katie, that would also be great, because I'm sure that there was a lot of stuff that came out of that meeting that people could feed on.
Yeah.
Or ask more questions, so.
I think that can feed into the work that Zon and Richard and I put together.
Because I have the notes in my notebook, so.
And that was a private meeting, so.
Yeah, but you're learning more about this and how it's gonna positively impact the community.
Certainly, if there's
So
anything
any ways that
anything
people can fit
significant,
into that
we
would
would,
be great.
yeah, if there's anything
All right.
significant, we'll include that for sure. Okay, any other suggestions? So we're gonna have a schedule, we're gonna have an application, we're gonna have notes on, we're gonna have, on the website. I wrote about it in an article that's coming out in the Gazette. Well, I don't know when the next one is, but
And Front Porch Forum.
and Front Porch Forum. So does anyone know when the next Gazette comes out?
I think it's very soon. I mean, I think, as I recall, August 1st was the distribution date, so I would think it'd be out in the next week or so.
So then there will be information, but that will be the first information, actually, public information about it. And then we'll follow up. But it is something that we really want to make as public as possible and have people benefit, as many people and organizations benefit as possible. You know that it's $110,000 each year for 2 years that we'll be getting from the federal government through the state of Vermont, and then there'll be more funding from the county share.
And we don't know
We don't know what that is, right? Okay, so I think that's a good beginning. Rusty.
Just a quick note, at this forum, is there any possibility we could get Katie, like through Zoom at the meeting? So if there was questions that needed to be asked, she could be on there to answer the
Sure.
questions.
We can inquire. I suspect I can't say for certain, but based on my previous questions, just trying to get a phone call with her has been extremely difficult. So I don't honestly know if she'll be able to do that. She did share with me, she's really been focused on working with towns smaller than Guilford that don't have the staff to really tackle this work.
But we can ask her.
But we can certainly ask, of course.
Okay, so anything else about ARPA? So I'm very pleased that we have sort of a beginning here of getting ourselves scheduled and knowing how to proceed to some extent. We don't know when the funding will be coming.
The county funding?
No, the federal government.
Oh,
funding.
no, they said sometime in August. Penny has been checking it weekly. It's not here yet. We'll obviously let the select board know when we have received it. From the last update I saw from VLCT, I don't suspect towns will start seeing it till the end of August.
Thank you. Anything else on that subject? All right, on to the quarterly review of the capital plan, which Peter's going to put up on the screen.
Great, thank you.
Are you guys able to see that? Yep, should be.
Yep.
Okay. Looks like the select board here can't see it.
No.
I have it, if I have the right document, I have it here on.
There it
my-
is.
All right.
Oops, it just went away.
Oh. All right. Give me just a second here. This is. All right. So let's try this again. Maybe everyone will be able to see it this time. Now, can you folks on video see this?
Yes.
Okay, great.
And yes, thank you.
And then the select board can see it here. So yeah, this is, I mean, Richard, you can certainly lead this. Just a discussion of the capital plan as far as where we're at and what we're working on this year. So one thing to note is, so you can see we are currently in FY22 here. So this $300,000 for the highway department, just as a reminder that the select board did spend a little bit or part of this early because of the truck became available that you purchased in the spring, in late spring. So part of that is come out of the FY22 budget for the highway department.
So these are not year-to-date figures, right? We don't know what the reductions are in those total numbers?
No, I did not have time, since I got back from vacation, to update that particular number. The other numbers should not have changed because we haven't expended anything yet.
Okay.
Um,
And remember, this is since July 1st.
That is correct.
So may I ask?
Yes, no.
Thank you. So what we're looking at here is a document of figures that the select board approved at one point to be part of this annual plan. It doesn't reveal any adjustments or any expenses against it or anything like that.
That's correct, yep. So
Okay.
these are the beginning of the fiscal year approvals by the select board.
All right. So what are we hoping for here as we review this? Are we just making sure the numbers are still there, or?
We want to make sure the numbers are still there. We want to make sure that the select board agreed that we would review this plan quarterly so that we all know what the select board is counting on to expend its capital funds on. So it's basically just a review, and if anyone has any questions, they're welcome.
And based on previous discussions with the select board, at various points in time, different select board members were uncertain as far as the progress that is being made on the capital plan each year, and I think that Sheila can attest to that. And so part of the reason why this came about was just to make sure that the plan is moving forward and that it's not staying stagnant, and that the select board is responsibly using these funds that have been set aside for these purposes.
For instance, we went aside the garage and we see that we have $57,084, so that the siding of the garage will come out of that figure. So, and we don't know what that is yet, right? Because we're just working on the RFP.
Yep, we're just finishing up the RFP right now.
But it's good for us to know that we have the $57,000 and that some of that will go to garage siding, yes on.
So thank you. So the question I have next is, in this first quarter that we're in, I think Peter was starting to explain that there have been some expenditures against these dollars.
Yeah, the only one was the purchase of the brand new dump truck.
Well, I'll ask a question. How about, and Danny, I'm just curious, bridges?
I was going to actually get to that next.
Okay, I'm just like
So-
where we're at with that and what we're
Yeah,
planning to do.
so this is for work on the bridge down in, not the Green River covered bridge, but the bridge down on River Road, just before you get
Before you get
to
to
Jelly
Jelly
Mill. So this bridge has needed some serious repair for a number of years, so the select board put it on for this year. We were notified technically in FY20 that we could apply for a VTrans grant to do this work, and that we had a good chance of getting funding for it. As if the select board has forgotten, that those grants were put on hold because of COVID, and then this spring we were notified that we are awarded that grant. So we applied for $200,000, which was the estimate for the bridge work, which is resurfacing it and building new concrete guard rails on it. We were awarded $175,000. Of that $175,000, the town is responsible for 20%. So the next step will then be to put together an RFP for contractors to come out and bid on the project to see what the final cost will be.
And that 20% will come out of the 200,000.
That is correct. And it may end up being more than that the town has to pay, because again, the original rough estimate was 200,000. We only got 175 for the grant. So we may have to pay more than the 20%. The 20% is just our responsibility for the grant.
If it goes smoothly, then in
We
theory we have money that'll roll over into future years because we got the grant. The 200,000 was money we set aside from.
Correct, and we also have money from the bridge funds that can be used for that as well.
We put in $60,000 every year towards it.
And so that's where the money, for example, that's on another tab further down, we have the sources and uses. So the sources of the bridge funding, for example, would come from our bridge reserve fund. And so it would, if we don't use all of that $200,000, we could do other bridge work if
That's how I ask, is there any other bridge work you'd want to do
Just
with that money?
do
or-
one at a time. I mean, we got a grant on that one.
Yeah.
We got 2 years.
To complete
We got
it.
a paving grant too, for it's a $200,000, and you have 2 years to do it in.
So to partially answer your question, Michael.
Yeah.
If we don't use all of those funds, they just remain in the bridge fund because it is a dedicated reserve fund. So there's, nothing needs to, roll over because that fund can only be used for bridge projects.
Okay, so I'll just go to use in a future year.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
I just point out, I see the word historical society. I think I created a little confusion earlier. I was thinking of the old meeting house
Oh,
with the
that's,
collapse ceiling. So
yeah,
I
okay.
don't want
Oh,
to
okay.
start a rumor here that
Okay.
the ceiling collapsed in the
Thank you for that clarification. Rusty, I see your hand is up.
Yes, the 2021 at the end, is that what the final expenditures was, or that was our goals? And if it was, did we meet this?
Yep, those were the goals for the year.
Did we meet them, or?
The highway equipment, yes, the highway equipment was, the 97.4 is actually what was spent last year on the new 1-ton, so that was actual. The culverts, you have to talk to Dan about, I don't know the amounts that we spent on culverts.
Peter, we're going to need, an expense accounting of how, what's left and
Sure.
what we've taken out, so that we can see them both, what we had.
What was planned and what was
What was planned
expended.
and what was expended.
So, of course, and why is culverts blank?
Just because there are no major culverts were planned. So last year, we did the large culverts project on
On Taylor.
Tater Lane. And that was budgeted at 100,000. I believe it came in a couple $1,000s less than 100,000.
So are small culverts just in the general?
My regular culverts are just in my regular general maintenance, and that's,
This is big culverts.
yeah, this is,
All right, like structural.
and I usually
Correct.
spend,
Okay.
I budget $10,000 a year for that, and last year I did half, and then this spring I ordered my other half of it, so.
So now if we go down to the Historical Society, which we know is going to need some help, we have nothing for 2022 for the Historical Society, is that correct?
That's correct. So there are a couple of options for the select board would be, you could take some of those funds out of the annual capital fund for this year. You could also, make a decision to use some of the funds that are set aside for FY23, and you could expend them this year instead of next year. I think, based on the conversation that we had earlier for the current damage, I don't expect that it's going to be too severe, so I think that could just come out of the general capital fund. Obviously we'll have a discussion about it. If it's going to be, multiple thousands of dollars, that's going to be a different discussion. And so then at that point, then we can, prior to a select board meeting, Richard and I can sit down and discuss, the best options as to where those funds should come from, and then discuss that with the select board at a meeting.
Yes, Sheila?
so is this the document, Peter, that you put into the Finance Committee some time ago?
Yes, that's correct, Sheila.
And I'm sorry, it's just gotten to be kind of confusing to me to try to figure out what we've actually accomplished in the 5 years since we started this, how much money we spent, where this money came from, and what we still have to do. So this says capital expenses summary, but it's what you're saying isn't it's actually capital budget summary.
Yes,
Not-
right. This is not expenses, this is budget.
Right.
Yep.
So
So should we
I requested that that Peter.
Yeah. So this is dated May, and now we're in August, and so there's probably a lot of updating to do from 21 as well as 22, or it's starting on 22 because you already talked about the bridges, the money coming from different sources.
Yeah, those sources were already accounted for when the update was done in May, because we did know about it at that point in time.
Yeah,
but based on what Richard's question earlier, I'm happy to put together a sheet that shows the actual expenditures versus what was budgeted and change the name of this tab and we can discuss it at the next select board meeting if you want to do that.
Yes,
Yeah,
do.
I mean, I think the idea, sorry, Richard, was that we were going to have a rolling 5-year plan and accountability. And I see that we still have the plan to some extent, but not the accountability part of it. So I agree with your request that we have that information. I applaud it.
Okay, good.
Oh, I just also
Yes.
have one note that I went to the town website and typed in the capital plan, and an older document came up, not this one. So there might need to be some
Sure.
adjustment on the town
I
website.
will have to look into that. I thought that this was updated when I did this in May, so I'll look at it. There may be more than one copy on there as well, so
Oh, okay. I
I'm
might
happy,
have looked at the wrong thing, but I thought that.
I'm happy to look into it and
Sure.
I'll deal with that.
So the actions to take away from this review, and I think that this review has been very quite fruitful because we're talking about bridges, we're talking about what we're spending money on, the garage siding, the need for looking at the roof. So that's exactly what we were hoping that this kind of review would do, so that we know as a select board what's coming up and what we're spending money on. And Peter's going to produce a document that will change the wording here from expenses to budget and then give us an expense accounting. Okay.
And I think this is a perfect time. I mean, we're at the beginning of the fiscal year, so this is a perfect time to be having this conversation.
Yes, it is.
To make sure that throughout the fiscal year that we're keeping up with the work. I mean, and the select board has been aware, based off of your previous decisions, that work has been happening, throughout the year
Yes,
on
of course.
the various projects.
Any other questions or comments?
I'll ask one. The town garage fiscal year 2023, what do the parentheses indicate?
A loss.
Yeah, that's technically a loss. I will have to look into that, so we don't
Loss
waste.
as in negative? Or
Yeah, as in a negative, or, let me look into it, I'll get back to you, I won't do it right now during the meeting. It could be just a typographical error, and it shouldn't be parentheses on there.
I think it probably is a typographical error.
I don't think so. I think it's what we thought we would have 5 years ago, that we would not have enough money to do the downtown garage thing.
Interesting. Well, Peter's going to find out.
I'll find out and I'll give an answer back for the select board at the next meeting.
Okay.
I'd also just be curious, with the library and construction potentially upcoming soon, with fiscal year 2023. Just, I don't know, any preliminary thoughts on
Well,
the MD?
so the select board has the option of taking both of those, both years' funds and applying it to the library building.
Right.
If we want to do that. But the sources and uses that I worked on with
Gabby.
Yeah.
Gabby sort of shows where the money is coming from and what it's used from. And the library itself has endowments that are going to be put to use for the building as well. And then we're going to have a philanthropic fundraising campaign where we'll be raising money from individuals, corporations, and foundations. We just learned that we didn't get the tax credit that Isaac had, but we're an alternate, so we may get that. And we're having a meeting with Isaac about where we're going from here on Thursday.
So those funds don't cover construction, it's.
Yes, no, it is construction.
It's part of construction.
Part of it.
Yeah,
And
that was what
architectural fees.
that was part of what the select board committed to. And so obviously the timeline for the library project was delayed for COVID and for other reasons. And so, those funds that were set aside for the library in 21 as well as for this year, they haven't disappeared. They're still in the town accounts. The select board just needs we need to find out what's happening with the architectural portion of the project right now before we figure out, is it going to be FY23 or FY24, FY25? What year is this project going to get started on once the architectural portion is finished? Which is the discussion that Richard and I had, why the select board hasn't moved those funds forward as of yet.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? All right, thank you very much. That was a stimulating conversation, I must say. On to the annual goals that Peter's going to put up for us to look at. And this, once again, the purpose of this is for review so that we are familiar with what our goals are for the year, the select board goals, and to ask questions and to tease out more information if that's what we want to do.
I mean, Zon and Veranda were really the ones that did all the work on this. I feel it's more appropriate.
I wanted to go down to start with, if no one minds, goal number 3. The select board works closely with town commissions, committees, and departments. Likewise, the select board maintains consistent relations with Guilford State Representative. I think we have a fairly good connection with our state representative, but I think that we should more formalize the review process and the communication with the town commissions. Do any select board members have anything to say about that?
Well, I feel, in the time that I've been on the select board, we've had regular reports from most of these commissions, but I don't recall a formal report from the Planning Commission. I mean, perhaps I'm missing something, but I can't recollect, hearing about their process, their accomplishments, and their projections.
Yeah. I think that's true of other commissions as well, but we really haven't heard from the Planning Commission very much at all.
No, we had been doing biannual reports from each commission with at least the chair or representative coming to the select board.
Well, we should continue with that, I think.
We did have those last November, and we had one, I think, in December last year. We have not had one this summer. You are correct, we did not have one from the Planning Commission. We did have the Conservation and Recreation.
Right, they came in with-
And the Cemetery Commission
right,
last fall, but not the Planning Commission. Why, I don't honestly remember at the moment.
Zon, do you have anything to shed light on that, being the?
I think it would be good for us, just the conversation I'm following along, and I think it would be very good for us to, if it's reinstate, get those twice annual meetings going again, as well as perhaps I'd like to look at what we request of each of the committees as far as written reports, for instance, to find out if there's information that could be passed along to us written, or if we need to do some thinking about how each of the commissions function. It's our responsibility, I understand, to review all of this. So we need to develop a review system. I see on the notes here that it said that Veranda and I were going to propose something. Haven't done that yet. So Veranda, we should probably get cracking on that.
So if you could make a proposal about how we could keep more of a bead on the commission's work and get reported to more regularly, I think that would be very helpful. And then Peter would put it into the select board calendar, what our expectations for a calendar year or the fiscal year.
And now that Zon mentions that, I think that's why we didn't have one in June, because we had been having them in November and June is when the select board had previously requested them. And since you were working on the select board goals and that was part of it, I think that may be why we didn't get those done in this past June.
Mm-hmm.
So
but also, I
was just going to ask, when do you think you two could have that done by, so we can put it on an agenda?
I think I would say that we should probably, I don't know, Veranda, you and I should talk, but I would think we could do that within a month.
Okay.
Yes, certainly.
Great.
And, just another note that I wanted to add was that I'm the liaison to 2 of those commissions. And as a liaison, I feel part of my job is to know what's going on, whether, and where these commissions are in terms of fulfilling their mandates.
Yes.
And so that's another sort of check and balance. I don't know who else on the select board is a liaison to one of these groups.
I'm a liaison to the library.
Conservation.
I am to planning. I think it would be helpful for the select board then to also hear a report from each of the liaisons, not only from the commissions as well, but from the liaisons, so we can begin to tighten up our understanding of how all this works and make sure that everything's in good order. Because there may be some actions that we may want to take at some point as the select board. We need to, we just need to have all the information we can available.
Yeah.
And I think, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I think that maybe Zan and I can talk about the role of liaison, and what that is. I regard it as sort of helping to advocate for the commission and also to be available to communicate back to the select board.
So it would be great to have a document, we really need a document that we can put up on the town website and that the select board can follow in regard to reviewing of the commission's work. And we really, I would just emphasize that we haven't heard from the planning commission in quite some time, and I think that is something that we really want to look into and hear from them about the town plan particularly.
Yes, I will take charge of connecting with Michelle and making sure that we hear from them as soon as after Veranda and I have done this bit of work, then maybe we can get them up first. How about that?
Thank you. That sounds like a good plan to me. Anything else about the? I see that we were supposed to. Anything else about that you want to say, Veranda or Zan, about the goals, or any other select board members?
About the other goals?
Yes.
Well, I noticed that the first action step of inviting newcomers to join activities. I mean, this has not been an organized thing, but I've certainly made it my personal responsibility. But I do think that, I'd like to work on a way to find out who has moved to Guilford, and whether it's a select board group or a group of community volunteers who want to reach out to animate our communities. I'd like to see that happen, and I can begin work on it with some other member of the select board.
Great. Someone else want to join Veranda in that initiative?
I see my initials are there as well. So Veranda, we have two things to talk about.
I'd be interested.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
I think we had irrational exuberance when we were putting together. We felt
That
very
is a
passionate
phenomenon.
about
Yes,
that.
I understand. I want to go down to number 4 because I think that we have done, I don't mean to be patting ourselves in the back, but we should when we have an opportunity. I meant number 6, I'm sorry, for resident safety, because we did try to keep and have been trying to keep very close track of what the CCC recommendations are and the state recommendations and the federal guidelines for running the town office and when to close it. We closed it twice and we opened it twice, and we also fulfilled the library's request, I know, on air purifying, which reminds me that would be probably a very interesting project for some of the ARPA money, is to make sure that our buildings are filtrated.
Yeah, that would actually be a good use
Yeah,
of the
let's
funds.
get that in the minutes.
I will make sure that's added.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of efforts to make connections that haven't formally been followed through. And, down here, number 17, twice yearly reports at select board meetings to have, groups like, BBCC is often in communication with us, but Guilford Cares, the Gazette, the Leadership Advisory Council, the Neighborhood Roots Food Collective. I don't know that these people need to come twice a year, but I think once a year.
Right, I have a question. Can the select board request a nonprofit in town to come and meet with it? Or, I mean, we could, in a friendly way.
You could invite them
Yeah.
to help publicize the work that they're doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can't require them to.
Well, we're not
But-
going to subpoena
No,
them.
I just didn't want them to think that we were trying to subpoena.
No, I think that these
But if you're trying to
groups-
promote the work that they're doing, that's great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some really interesting initiatives that people in Guilford have done that they would like more airtime.
So why don't we make a list of those organizations and get a schedule to have invitations sent to them? Are you familiar with the organizations in town, Peter? Do you think you
I mean, I know a number
I
of
would
them.
work with
could-
Peter
Okay,
to come up with a preliminary list.
great, then we can help. In regard to transparency, I'm trying to get a report into the Gazette twice a year on what the select board's work is, and I've done that, I believe. I've done that honestly. So it will come out in August, and I suppose the next one would come out before the town meeting, maybe. Yeah, I think that's when I did it last time, or at town meeting time. It was for the town meeting.
Correct.
So that's
That's your
twice a
winter
year.
one, and then you're doing a summer one.
Yes,
Yeah.
So that's in the effort to create more transparency about the goings on about the select board.
I'll just say on item 4, I think we're making some progress on the town garage project.
Yes.
Yes.
I put some time into helping prepare the RFP the last week, so
And actually, back on point 6, I also think we're making really good progress because we're working on, the select board hired the consultant for the bike and pedestrian safety grant that
That's
we're working
right.
on. So we're waiting for final approval on that contract from Du Bois and King. So that's moving along. So you guys are doing some work. Obviously, there's growth that can be done, but I think you guys are making good progress.
do we, I see state representative, like, maintaining good relations. Do we have a regular schedule with Sarah?
Sarah usually lets us know when she'd like to
Yeah.
come and talk to
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, Sarah is away right now.
Yeah.
No, I feel as if, all told, things are moving along on, sort of in an individual basis, based on our sort of community of interest. Some of us are pursuing those connections, but I think it really is time to sort of formalize this, and we have been remiss.
And Peter, have you captured all of the items that we wanted to do to
I
formalize?
Yeah, I will, when I finish the minutes
Great.
later this week, I will make sure I incorporate all the details of what we've discussed.
Thank you. Any other, yes, Don?
I would just like to say that I think this is a very good conversation to be able to go over this on a quarterly basis. We will develop good habits just as we're going along here. So while we might have been remiss a bit in the past, I think we can keep each other right in line here going forward. It'll be a pleasure to do. So
I
Yeah.
agree
I
with
think
you, Don.
I'm
Thank
glad
you for
we're having
saying
this
that.
conversation.
Me too.
Me too.
Okay, if that's not, if we put a cap on that, then we go right into the finance part of our agenda, and that would be the warrants.
Oh, well, I'm so pleased. Okay.
Thank you,
Good idea,
Dan.
Wally.
Thanks for coming.
You did a brilliant job.
Okay,
Good night, Dan.
I move that we pay the following warrants. Payroll week 8/1/21 for the sum of $6,309.20. Payroll week 8/8/21 for the sum of $6,200.90. Expense warrant number 2203 for the sum of $23,972.59 for a total of $36,482.69.
Do I have a second?
Oh.
Rusty's hand was up, okay. Thank you, Rusty. Is there any discussion?
Well, I believe that our membership in VLCT was an important part of that.
Yep.
There was chloride for the roads, and there was one more big thing. Do you
The
remember what?
yes, it was the quarterly
Oh,
retirement.
Wyndham, was it
Oh, and
Wyndham
then also-
Regional? No, solid waste.
Solid waste,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Okay,
Solid
so it
waste.
was
Let's not
VLCT,
forget.
solid waste, chloride, and,
The quarterly retirement contributions.
okay, so those were the big
Thank you,
ticket
Miranda.
items.
Any further discussion? Then I'll take the roll. Rusty?
Aye.
Zahn?
I,
Veranda?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Richard? Aye. The warrants are passed. Thank you very much. Other business?
I do not have any other business tonight.
Does anybody? What about the communications?
I have no communications this week.
Okay, what about the action from the previous meeting?
The previous meeting, the select board set the FY22 tax rate. You approved a mowing bid from Expert Lawn Care for the next 2 years, and you acknowledged a dog complaint, which you dismissed tonight. As far as actions taken tonight, I apologize. The meeting was going rather quickly, so I didn't get all of them. I will put them in the minutes when I get there. But you decided to have a roofer come to look at the Historical Society. You dismissed the aforementioned dog complaint. I am going to work with Richard and Zahn on a communications plan and some documents for the ARPA funding to share with community members. I am going to follow up on a couple of items related to the capital plan and share that with the select board at the next meeting. Zahn and Veranda are going to create a plan for receiving more timely reports from the various commissions in town. And Veranda and I are going to work on inviting nonprofit organizations to share their updates with the town at the select board meeting.
Great. That's a lot of actions.
Mhm.
I think there's a couple I missed there, but I'll get them in the minutes when I finish them later this week.
Thank you. Well, that seems to be our meeting. Do we have a motion to, yes, Zahn?
before I make a motion, I would just like to acknowledge that Veranda did a fine job. We missed you last time, Richard, and so sorry for your loss, but Veranda did a fine job with the meeting, and so we were in good hands. I just want to acknowledge.
Thank you. I watched it on television and I was titillated.
After all these
I would like
years.
to offer a motion that we adjourn this evening.
Do I have a second? Thank you. Is there any discussion? All right, I'll take the roll. Rusty?
Aye.
Zahn?
Aye.
Miranda?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Richard? Aye. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. And it is exactly 7:30 p.m. if I'm not mistaken.
Thank you, everyone.
7:31.
Good night.
Bye, everybody. Have a good week.